Good afternoon. This presentation examines the organizational design of social entrepreneurship ecosystems in the defense sector, with evidence from Ukraine's wartime transformation. The study is joint work by Iryna Verkhovod, Svitlana Bondarenko, and Anatolii Polishchuk, of the Kiev National Economic University, the National Defense University of Ukraine, and the SGH Warsaw School of Economics. Our subject sits at an uncomfortable intersection: social policy instruments that must operate inside a defense industrial complex during active hostilities. Let me begin with the scale of the problem. Ukraine's projected veteran population, after the end of hostilities, is 2.5 million people. Their needs cluster around psychological adaptation, housing, employment, and professional retraining. Conventional welfare systems, designed for peacetime caseloads and peacetime categories, are ill-equipped for a task of this magnitude. Hence the organizational question we pose: how do you design a social entrepreneurship ecosystem that operates within the institutional constraints of a defense industrial complex, while the war is still ongoing? The defense industrial complex itself has transformed dramatically. From roughly 300 enterprises in late 2022, it grew to more than 800 by 2024, including 25 foreign defense companies. Annual production capacity reached $35 billion, and the workforce now exceeds 300,000 people. This is no longer a niche sector. It is a major employer whose social framework has not kept pace with its industrial growth. That mismatch is precisely where social entrepreneurship can operate. Conceptually, the study integrates three lenses. The ecosystem approach treats actors, resources, and institutions as an interdependent system, rather than a collection of isolated programs. The European EMES concept defines what qualifies as a social enterprise: economic activity, an explicit social aim, and participatory governance. And the WISE model, work integration social enterprises, makes employment itself the route to reintegration. Taken together, they let us treat social enterprise in the defense sector as an ecosystem design problem, with governance as the central design variable. The evidence base combines 5 methods. A systematic literature review across social entrepreneurship, ecosystem studies, and defense sector research. Comparative analysis of international practice in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Israel. Content analysis of the Ukrainian regulatory framework. Structural functional modeling, which maps actors, functions, and flows within the ecosystem. And gap analysis, which sets the needs of target groups against the delivery capacity of the existing social protection system. The gap analysis is where the diagnosis becomes concrete. On one side, 4 need clusters of the target groups: psychological adaptation, housing, employment, and professional retraining. On the other, the current social protection system. The analysis identifies critical discrepancies between the two. And note who the target groups are: not only veterans, but defense sector employees, internally displaced persons engaged in defense production, and their families. The task is broader than veteran policy alone. A contribution worth pausing on is definitional. The study proposes an original definition of the social entrepreneurship ecosystem within the social security framework of the defense industrial complex: a coordinated set of actors, intermediaries, and rules through which social enterprises deliver reintegration and protection outcomes for defense-linked groups. Why does this matter? Because without a bounded concept, policy conflates charity, corporate social responsibility, and social enterprise, and governance responsibilities dissolve. The definition anchors the architecture that follows. The core of the study is a 3-level governance architecture. At the macro level, institutional coordination among government agencies, regulatory bodies, and international partners. At the meso level, organizational intermediaries, industry associations, veteran support networks, business incubators, and civil society organizations. At the micro level, operating models for individual social enterprises serving defense employees, veterans, displaced persons in defense production, and their families. Each level has distinct functions. The architecture assigns responsibilities instead of dispersing them. 2 design principles run through the architecture. The first is dual logic. Defense sector operations impose security imperatives, confidentiality, supply reliability, personnel vetting, that are non-negotiable in wartime. The social mission, reintegration, protection, dignity, must be pursued within those constraints, not against them. The second principle is built-in adaptability. Governance structures must transition from wartime operation to post-conflict recovery without redesign. Flexibility is specified up front, not retrofitted after the fact. International practice serves as calibration, not blueprint. The United States has built a veteran entrepreneurship infrastructure of federal programs, procurement preferences, and university-based incubation. The United Kingdom channels public procurement towards social enterprises through social value legislation. Israel couples reintegration tightly to its defense technology sector. All are instructive, but none of these systems was designed during active hostilities. Ukraine's case adds the wartime constraint that existing models take for granted as absent. What do policymakers and defense sector administrators actually get from this study? 3 things. First, an actionable analytical framework for designing social entrepreneurship ecosystems as an innovative instrument of social policy. Second, a bounded concept with a governance map, the definition plus the macro, meso, micro architecture, which assigns responsibilities rather than dispersing them. Third, design rules that survive the transition. Dual logic and built-in adaptability prepare these structures for the shift from wartime operation to post-conflict recovery. To conclude, social enterprise in the defense sector is, above all, an organizational design problem. A reintegration task of 2.5 million people, an industrial base of more than 800 enterprises, and a welfare system built for a different reality. The adequate response is a governed ecosystem, not a collection of well-meaning projects. Design the governance first, and the enterprises will have somewhere to grow. Thank you for your attention.